If you've ever had a conversation with anyone that owns an EV, you may have heard them say, "Oh, well, I have a level 2 charger at home." But since when are there levels to EV charging? Well, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. The 3 levels of EV charging, how they work, and what they look like. All right, before we dive in, let's just set some ground rules. All electric cars and EV chargers have a pretty wide range of how fast they charge. There are so many different influencing factors that it's hard to give you solid numbers for each level. So for today, I'm just going to aim for middle of the road numbers and just give an average for each level. We'll try to keep things simple, so don't come for me if your car doesn't charge at these exact numbers that I'm saying. The Tesla Model 3 is the most common EV on the market, so I always like to use the Model 3 for my examples. The Tesla Model 3 has a battery capacity of 60 kilowatts. But one major thing to mention here, it's always recommended that you keep your EV's battery between 10 and 80%. These lithium batteries don't like to go fully up to 100 or drop all the way down to 0. Keeping your EV's battery between that 10 and 80% will just increase the longevity of your battery. So taking this into consideration, we're going to imagine that our Tesla Model 3's battery is only 40 kilowatts, so we stay within that safety zone for the battery. Level 1 chargers. These chargers usually come with the car and are sometimes known as trickle chargers because they take so long to charge. I know you've seen a level 1 charger before. These are the chargers that are usually just dangling off an EV plugged into the closest outlet. Level 1 chargers just use a standard 120 volt outlet, just like your iPhone does when you're charging at home. Level 1 chargers max out at about 2.5 kilowatts, and they'll charge your Tesla Model 3 battery to that 80% in about 16 hours. Level 1 chargers are simple, they're cheap, and they're great if you're just charging your car overnight, but ideally you want a faster charge. Level 2 chargers. Level 2 chargers are the most common chargers that you'll see out in public. You can usually find them at grocery stores, at malls, and sometimes even at movie theaters. Sometimes these chargers are mounted to the wall, or they'll be sitting on their own pedestal. Level 2 chargers use both 240 volt and 208 volt. In terms of kilowatt speed, they max out at 19 kilowatts, but I've yet to see a level 2 charger anywhere near 19. Usually they'll float between 7 and 12 kilowatts, but for our example, let's go middle of the road with 10 kilowatts. So if we plugged in our Tesla Model 3 to a 10 kilowatt level 2 charger, it would most likely get it up to that 80% in about 4 to 6 hours. These chargers are great if they're in a spot with lots to do in the area, like go shopping or see a movie. But if these chargers are placed in a spot in the middle of nowhere, it's probably not the most fun just sitting in your car with nothing to do, waiting for your battery to charge. Level 3 chargers. Level 3 chargers are also known as DC fast chargers, and they operate quite differently from the other 2 levels. Level 3 chargers use DC electricity, whereas the other 2 levels use AC. I won't go into the whole history of the battle between Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison, but it's pretty interesting if you felt like looking it up. The DC direct current is much faster because it goes directly into the car's battery. Level 3 chargers are those big monsters that you see on the side of highways, but nowadays you're finding them more and more in the city. Tesla superchargers are a form of level 3 DC fast chargers. I can't think of any scenario where a level 3 DC fast charger would be placed in a residential setting like a house or an apartment building. These chargers just require way more electricity that most buildings don't have the capacity to support. These chargers use 480 volts and are capable of reaching 400 kilowatt output. That being said, Tesla superchargers max out at about 250 kilowatts. And every time I've ever used a level 3 DC fast charger, the output usually floats around 70 kilowatts. This is still super fast, I'm not complaining, but it's good to know that they have the capability of reaching that output. So going back to our Tesla Model 3 as an example, If we were to pull up to a level 3 DC fast charger and plug in, if the charger's output was about 70 kilowatts, it should charge our Tesla Model 3 up to that 80% in about 30 minutes. Every day, these batteries are getting better and these chargers are getting faster. So people complaining about the slow pace of EV chargers will eventually be a thing of the past. As always, if you're working on your own EV charging project, feel free to give me a shout. I'd be happy to help. And if you want to continue following the journey, please subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks so much for checking in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.